The Super Bowl is the annual American football game that determines the champion of the National Football League. The game culminates a season that begins in the previous calendar year, and is the conclusion of the NFL playoffs. The winner receives the Vince Lombardi Trophy. The contest is held in an American city, chosen 3 to 4 years beforehand, usually at warm weather sites or domed stadiums. Since January 1971, the winner of the American Football Conference Championship game has faced the winner of the National Football Conference Championship game in the culmination of the NFL playoffs. Before the 1970 merger between the American Football League and the National Football League, the two leagues met in 4 such contests. The first 2 were marketed as the AFL-NFL World Championship game, but were also casually referred to as the Super Bowl game during the television broadcast. Super Bowl III in January 1969 was the first such game that carried the Super Bowl moniker in official marketing. The names Super Bowl I and Super Bowl II were retroactively applied to the first 2 games. The NFC/NFL leads the AFC/AFL with 29 wins to 27. A total of 20 franchises, including teams that have relocated to another city, have won the Super Bowl. The New England Patriots and Pittsburgh Steelers have won the most Super Bowls with 6 championships, while the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers have 5 wins. The New England Patriots have the most Super Bowl appearances with 11, while the Buffalo Bills have the most consecutive appearances with 4 from 1990 to 1993. The Miami Dolphins and New England Patriots are the only other teams to have at least 3 consecutive appearances. The Denver Broncos and Patriots have each lost a record 5 Super Bowls. The Minnesota Vikings and the Bills have lost 4. The record for consecutive wins is 2 and is shared by 7 franchises: the Green Bay Packers, the Miami Dolphins, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the San Francisco 49ers, the Dallas Cowboys, the Denver Broncos, and the New England Patriots. Among those, Dallas and New England are the only teams to win 3 out of 4 consecutive Super Bowls. The 1972 Dolphins capped off the only perfect season in NFL history with their victory in Super Bowl VII. The only teams with multiple Super Bowl appearances and no losses are the Baltimore Ravens and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, both having achieved a Super Bowl record. 4 current NFL teams have never appeared in a Super Bowl, including franchises that have relocated or been renamed: the Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars, and Houston Texans, though both the Browns and Lions had won NFL championship games prior to the creation of the Super Bowl in the 1966 season. Background: Host selection process. On May 19, 2015, the league announced the 4 finalists for hosting Super Bowl LIII in 2019 and Super Bowl LIV in 2020. NFL team owners voted on these cities on May 24, 2016, with the first round of voting determining the host for Super Bowl LIII, and the second round deciding the site for Super Bowl LIV. In a development not known in advance, a third round of voting was added to select a Super Bowl LV hosting site. Atlanta and Miami were awarded Super Bowls LIII and LIV respectively, removing them from the running for LV. Los Angeles was not eligible for Super Bowl LIII, as their stadium was under construction and would not yet be finished. It was eligible for LIV and LV, and opted to bid only on the latter. The 2 candidates were Raymond James Stadium, Tampa, Florida. Tampa had hosted 4 Super Bowls, the last being Super Bowl LIV in 2009. Sophie Stadium, Inglewood, California. Los Angeles had hosted the Super Bowl 7 times, most recently in 1993 with Super Bowl XXVII. That game, along with the 4 prior Super Bowls in the area, was held at the Rose Bowl, while the first two Super Bowls in the Los Angeles area were held at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Los Angeles was originally chosen as the host site for Super Bowl LV in a vote on May 24, 2016. However, due to construction delays, authorities announced that the stadium would not be completed until the start of the 2020 NFL season. On May 23, 2017, NFL owners voted unanimously, with the Rams' approval, to move Super Bowl LV to Tampa. The city of Inglewood instead hosted Super Bowl LVI in 2022. Impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. As of the start of the 2020 NFL season, the league had forbidden on-field entertainment, such as halftime shows and national anthem performances at games with fans. These elements, which have historically been cornerstones of the Super Bowl entertainment, would have been produced off-site had restrictions remained in place. In case a COVID-19 outbreak forced the postponements of regular season and playoff games, the league stated that Super Bowl LV could have been delayed as far as February 28. The state of Florida removed capacity restrictions for sporting events in October, although the three Florida-based teams have voluntarily maintained 20-25% capacity limits. As of late October 2020, the NFL was planning a minimum attendance of 20% of capacity, in hopes that a larger capacity would be possible by game day. On January 22, 2021, the NFL had originally announced that the game would have 22,000 fans in attendance, 7,500 of whom would be healthcare workers who had received a COVID-19 vaccine, primarily from the Tampa and Central Florida region. The NFL also filled in the empty seats by selling 30,000 cardboard cutouts to fans. On February 2, the league increased the expected attendance to 25,000. Super Bowl LV was the least attended Super Bowl in the game's history. The next lowest attendance was the 61,946 who attended the inaugural game in 1967. NFL protocols for the 2020 season required that the closest rows of seats be blocked with tarps to reduce spectator proximity to the field. For the Super Bowl, they were covered with additional LED video boards. The traditional events held during Super Bowl week were significantly reduced. Capacity at the Super Bowl experience at Julian B. Lane Riverfront Park was limited due to health and safety protocols. Instead of holding practices and participating in media events during the entire week in the Super Bowl host city, the Chiefs flew into Tampa on the day before the game as they had during the regular season. The Super Bowl opening night festivities on the Monday preceding the game were cancelled and replaced with a virtual media availability. In March, health officials in Hillsborough County, Florida determined that Super Bowl LV was not a superspreader event. The officials cited 53 cases that were traced to official Super Bowl events, 3 of those being people who attended the game itself. They also noted that unofficial house parties were likely far greater causes of spread during that time span. Teams: Kansas City Chiefs. As defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs recorded an NFL best 14-2 record in 2020 under 8th-year head coach Andy Reid. Other than a 40-32 loss against the Las Vegas Raiders in Week 5, their only defeat was in the final game of the season against the Los Angeles Chargers, when they rested most of their starters because they had already clinched the number 1 seed in the playoffs. This appearance was the Chiefs' 4th trip to the Super Bowl. They lost Super Bowl I, but won Super Bowls 4 and Live. Kansas City's offense ranked first in the NFL in yards and 6th in points scored. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes made the Pro Bowl for the 3rd consecutive season, throwing for 4,740 yards and 38 touchdowns, with only 6 interceptions, while also finishing the season as Kansas City's 2nd leading rusher with a career-high 308 yards and 2 scores. His main target was Pro Bowl tight end Travis Kelce, who caught 105 passes for 1,416 yards and 11 touchdowns, making him the NFL's second leading receiver and setting a new league record for receiving yards by a tight end. Pro Bowl receiver Tyreek Hill had 87 receptions for 1,276 yards and 15 touchdowns, while also rushing for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mahomes also had receivers Demarcus Robinson, Mecole Hardman, and Sammy Watkins. The team's leading rusher from 2019, Damian Williams, opted out of the 2020 season due to COVID-19 concerns and because his mother had recently been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. In his place, rookie running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire stepped up to fill the void, rushing for 808 yards and 4 touchdowns, while also catching 36 passes for 297 yards and another touchdown alongside Le'Veon Bell, who had 254 yards and 2 touchdowns after being released from the New York Jets earlier that season. Tackle Eric Fisher led the Chiefs' offensive line, making his second Pro Bowl selection. However, he was forced to miss the Super Bowl after suffering a torn Achilles tendon in the AFC Championship game. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, a starting guard for the 2019 season, was first NFL player to announce he would not play the season because of COVID-19, instead working as an orderly at a Montreal long-term care facility during the pandemic. On special teams, kicker Harrison Butker made 25 of 27 field goals, including all 4 of his attempts from over 50 yards. The Chiefs' defense was ranked 16th in the league in yards allowed. The Chiefs' defensive line was led by Pro Bowl selections Chris Jones and Frank Clark. Linebacker Anthony Hitchens ranked second on the team with 78 tackles. Kansas City's secondary was led by Pro Bowl strong safety Tyrann Mathieu and free safety Daniel Sorensen. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers finished the 2020 season with an 11-5 record under second-year head coach Bruce Arians. Prior to this, the team had not won a playoff game since Super Bowl XXXVII in 2003 and had not made the playoffs since 2007-08. The team also recorded only 3 winning seasons since 2008 and had gone 7-9 the previous year. During the 2020 off-season, the Buccaneers chose not to re-sign quarterback Jameis Winston, whom they selected first overall in 2015. To replace Winston, they made arguably the biggest off-season acquisition by signing 20-year veteran Tom Brady, one of the NFL's most decorated players. The signing marked the first time that Brady would play for a team other than the New England Patriots, where he was considered the offensive engine of the franchise's dynasty. Tight end Rob Gronkowski, Brady's teammate in New England and considered one of the greatest in his position, was lured out of retirement and acquired through a trade with the Patriots. Further off-season acquisitions included running back Leonard Fournette, running back LeSean McCoy, and place kicker Ryan Succop. In the 2020 NFL Draft, Tampa Bay bolstered their offensive line by selecting tackle Tristan Wirfs 13th overall. After Week 6, they signed accomplished, but controversial wide receiver Antonio Brown, who had been out of the league for over a year. Tampa Bay's offense was ranked 7th in league yards and 3rd in points scored. The 43-year-old Brady threw for 4,633 yards and 40 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and rushed for 3 touchdowns. His main targets were Mike Evans, who caught 70 passes for 1,001 yards and 13 touchdowns, Chris Godwin, who caught 65 passes for 840 yards and 7 touchdowns, and Rob Gronkowski, who caught 45 passes for 623 yards and 7 touchdowns. Brady also had other receivers to go to with Scotty Miller, Antonio Brown, and Cameron Brate. Ronald Jones was the team's leading rusher with 978 yards and 7 touchdowns, while also catching 28 passes for 165 yards and another touchdown. Leonard Fournette also added 367 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns, while also hauling in 36 passes. Kicker Ryan Suckup ranked 6th in the NFL with 136 points, making 28 of 31 field goal attempts. Tampa Bay's defense was ranked 6th in the league in yardage allowed. The defensive line was anchored by defensive ends Ndamukong Suh and William Golston. The line was also aided by edge rushing outside linebackers Jason Pierre-Paul, the team's lone Pro Bowl selection, and Shaquille Barrett. The team also had linebackers Devin White and Lavonte David. Cornerback Carlton Davis led the team with 4 interceptions, while rookie safety Antoine Winfield Jr. added 94 tackles, 1 interception, and 3 sacks. Playoffs. The Kansas City Chiefs won the AFC West Division title for a 5th consecutive year and the top seed in the AFC playoffs with a league-best 14-2 record. After clinching a first-round bye, the Chiefs defeated the Cleveland Browns 22-17 in the divisional round to send them to their 3rd straight AFC championship game. They then won 38-24 over the Buffalo Bills for their 2nd straight Lamar Hunt Trophy. However, the victories proved costly. In the divisional round, quarterback Patrick Mahomes suffered a turf toe injury before being removed in the 3rd quarter due to a concussion. The former continued to afflict Mahomes entering the Super Bowl, with him required to undergo toe surgery after the game. Additionally, left tackle Eric Fisher departed the conference championship with a torn Achilles, forcing him to miss the Super Bowl. The loss of Fisher compounded Kansas City's offensive line troubles, as right tackle Mitchell Schwartz had been lost earlier in the season with a back injury. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finished as the 5th seed and 2nd place in the NFC South with an 11-5 record. They were the first team under quarterback Tom Brady to reach the playoffs as a wild card. In the wild card round, the Buccaneers defeated the Washington football team 31-23, to advance to the divisional round against the Saints, who had swept them in the regular season. Tampa Bay then defeated New Orleans 30-20 to advance to the NFC Championship game. The Buccaneers then upset the top-seeded Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship game 31-26, advancing to the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay became the 5th team to win 3 away games en route to the Super Bowl. They also became the first team to make the Super Bowl as a wild-card team since the 2010 Green Bay Packers. Tampa Bay became the first team to play and win a Super Bowl in its home stadium, and only the 3rd to play in their home metro area. Pre-game notes. The Buccaneers were the designated home team for Super Bowl LV, as the home team alternates between the 2 conferences annually. The fact that the Buccaneers were designated as the home team in their home stadium was a coincidence. As the designated home team, the Buccaneers elected to wear their white jerseys with pewter pants. The Chiefs wore their red jerseys with white pants. Even though the game was played in the Buccaneers' home stadium, the league treated this as a neutral site game. The Buccaneers were only allowed to fire the cannons from the stadium's signature pirate ship for player introductions and after the end of the game, but not during every scoring play and when the offense enters the red zone as they usually would. In addition, the stadium decor including the replica pirate ship sails were accordingly changed from Buccaneers logos to those promoting the Super Bowl. Gambling establishments had the Chiefs as 3-point favorites and projected 57 points scored. The Chiefs and Buccaneers played each other during the regular season. The Chiefs won the Week 12 game in Tampa, 27-24. This marked the 14th time the Super Bowl featured a rematch of a regular season game and the first time this has happened since Super Bowl XLVI in 2012. This was the first time that both Super Bowl starting quarterbacks Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady have won the AP NFL MVP and Super Bowl MVP awards, as Brady is Mahomes' senior by 18 years. Some build the matchup as comparable to Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. Since the Buccaneers reached the Super Bowl, Tampa was nicknamed Compa Bay. As all 3 of the area's major professional sports teams had made their league's championship round during the past 5 months, a few months prior, the Tampa Bay Lightning had won the 2020 Stanley Cup Finals, while the Tampa Bay Rays had advanced to but lost the 2020 World Series. Super Bowl LV set the record for the oldest combined age between both coaches. Chiefs linebackers coach Britt Reid, the son of head coach Andy Reid, was involved in a car accident on February 4, 2021. 2 young children were injured in the crash. The younger Reid admitted to consuming 2 to 3 alcoholic drinks and being on Adderall, a prescription medication, while driving. He did not coach in the game. Media coverage. United States. Super Bowl LV was televised by CBS. Although NBC was to air this game under the current rotation, they traded the game to CBS in exchange for Super Bowl LVI, which falls during the 2022 Winter Olympics and is the first to be scheduled during an ongoing Olympic Games. CBS, to an extent, also benefited from holding rights to the Super Bowl in the same year that it held the rights to the NCAA Final Four, which is cycled with Warner Media Entertainment channels on a 2-year cycle with TBS, as well as the AFC Championship game in primetime, which contractually alternates between afternoon and prime time on a 2-year cycle with the NFC Championship game on Fox. CBS also simulcast the game on CBS All Access, CBSSports.com, and the CBS Sports mobile app. CBS used 120 cameras in total, including 10 4K cameras, 2 8K cameras, a crane camera, a trolley cam running parallel with the field, and 2 Sony Venice cameras that were used to produce cinematic and 3D-like scenes reminiscent of video games. Production was decentralized due to COVID-19 protocols, with some production duties being conducted remotely from the CBS Broadcast Center in New York City and at individual employees' homes. CBS officially introduced a rebranding of the CBS Sports division during Super Bowl LV, as part of a larger brand unification process between the CBS network's main divisions. Building upon its involvement in a youth-oriented broadcast of one of the wild card games, Nickelodeon contributed family-oriented social media content, including Nick-feed highlight videos with similar augmented reality effects to the aforementioned wild card broadcast. These slime lights were also featured during a highlights package on CBS at halftime. Nickelodeon also aired a half-hour preview special for the game, and an NFL-themed edition of Unfiltered aired as a segment during CBS's pre-game show The Super Bowl Today. ESPN Deportes aired a Spanish-language broadcast. Unlike the 2 other networks in the Super Bowl rotation, CBS does not have a Spanish-language sports or general entertainment network. It has sold the Spanish-language rights to ESPN Deportes for each of its Super Bowl broadcasts since Super Bowl 50. The game was also available with exclusive camera angles through the NFL mobile app and Yahoo Sports mobile app. Viewers with an iPhone 12 who were in the stadium could see 7 exclusive angles, and viewers at home could see 5. Lead-out programs. Ratings. Advertising. International. In Canada, CTV and TSN televised this game in English and RDS in French. As with the 2020 edition, CTV invoked simultaneous substitution over U.S. network signals distributed in Canada, as a CRTC ban on such substitutions during the Super Bowl had been overturned by a December 2019 Supreme Court of Canada decision. In the United Kingdom and Ireland, the game was televised on the free-to-air channel BBC One and paid subscription channel Sky One. It was carried on radio via BBC Radio 5 Live. In Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, free-to-air channel ProSieben broadcast the event through its RAN format. 2.2 million Germans watched the game, which encouraged the NFL to further consider adding Germany to the international series in the future. In Belgium and Portugal, the game was televised by paid subscription channel 11 Sports. In Poland, the game was broadcast on the free-to-air channel TVP Sport, marking the first time an NFL game was available on a Polish open channel. Subscription streaming platform DAZN also streamed the Super Bowl in several countries including Canada, Germany, and Japan. Entertainment. Pre-game ceremonies. A special pre-game concert for the invited healthcare workers attending the game, the TikTok Tailgate, was held in the afternoon prior to Super Bowl LV, and was headlined by Miley Cyrus, with guest appearances by Joan Jett and Billy Idol. Portions were aired during CBS's pre-game show, while the full concert was streamed on the TikTok app. While performing her song Wrecking Ball, Cyrus broke down and said that it never gets easier. A pre-game segment addressing racial unrest in the United States and the NFL's Inspire Change campaign featured a pre-recorded performance of Lift Every Voice and Sing by Alicia Keys from the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. National Youth Poet Laureate Amanda Gorman recited an original poem recognizing the game's 3 honorary captains participating in the coin toss ceremony: Los Angeles teacher Tremaine Davis, Tampa nurse Susie Dorner, and Marine veteran James Martin. R&B singer Her performed America the Beautiful, and country music singer Eric Church and R&B singer Jasmine Sullivan performed the Star-Spangled Banner. This was the second time that the national anthem was sung as a duet in a Super Bowl, the first time being in 2006. At the end of the national anthem, a flyover was performed by the United States Air Force consisting of their 3 strategic bombers currently in active service, the B-1 Lancer, the B-2 Spirit, and the B-52 Stratofortress. Halftime show. The halftime show was headlined by The Weeknd. Dave Meyers was the show's executive producer, while Rock Nation produced and creatively directed. Additionally, Hamish Hamilton directed the performance. The show featured a number of his hit songs, including Can't Feel My Face, Earned It, and Blinding Lights, among others. It was reported that he had spent $7 million of his own money on the show, which featured men dressed in all black with red jackets and bandages on their face as backup dancers. The halftime show garnered mixed reviews from critics, noting that while the logistical side of the performance was impressive, the lack of guest performers and the poor audio mixing were heavy drawbacks to the occasion. Game summary. First half. Kansas City won the coin toss and deferred possession to the second half. The opening kickoff from Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker was returned to the Tampa Bay 24-yard line. The Buccaneers' opening drive stalled to a 3-and-out, and the resulting Bradley Pinion punt was downed at the Kansas City 33-yard line. The Chiefs' first drive ended similarly, with the offense able to gain only 1 first down and Tommy Townsend's punt resulting in a touchback. Tampa Bay's second drive started with a promising 13-yard rush by Ronald Jones II, but stalled from there and resulted in another punt by Pinion, this one downed at the Chiefs' 38-yard line. Kansas City's ensuing drive took them 31 yards in 8 plays, culminating in the first points of the game, a 49-yard field goal by Butker. On the next drive, Buccaneers running back Leonard Fournette rushed 4 times for 26 yards on an 8-play, 70-yard drive that ended on Tom Brady's 8-yard touchdown pass to Rob Gronkowski, giving Tampa Bay a 4-point lead. This was the 13th postseason touchdown pass from Brady to Gronkowski, setting a new record, which they had previously shared with Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. It was also the first time in Brady's 10 Super Bowls that he threw a touchdown pass in the first quarter. The Chiefs' next drive, which started on their own 37-yard line, ended in a 3-and-out, and the Buccaneers took over on their own 30-yard line following the punt. On their first drive of the second quarter, Brady's 31-yard completion to Mike Evans gave Tampa Bay a first and goal at the Chiefs' 6-yard line. However, the Bucs were only able to reach the Chiefs' 1-yard line with their next 3 plays, and Ronald Jones II was stopped short of the goal line on a 4th down rushing attempt, giving the ball over on downs to Kansas City. The Chiefs were unable to capitalize off of the stop. The Chiefs' Tommy Townsend punted deep into Tampa Bay territory, but Kansas City was flagged for a holding call and had to punt again. Townsend's follow-up punt went out of bounds at the Chiefs' 38-yard line, for a net of only 29 yards. On the next drive, Brady threw a 17-yard touchdown pass to Gronkowski, increasing the Buccaneers' lead to 14-3. The Buccaneers' drive was aided by two significant penalties. First, an interception by the Chiefs' Tyrann Mathieu was negated by defensive holding call. Later, after Kansas City stopped the Buccaneers on third down, the Chiefs' Mecole Hardman was called for offsides during the ensuing field goal attempt, giving the Buccaneers a first down as a result of the 5-yard penalty. Kansas City responded by moving the ball 61 yards in 10 plays, with Patrick Mahomes completing 3 passes to Travis Kelce for 36 yards and rushing for 11. Butker finished the possession with another field goal, this from 34 yards, making the score 14-6. Tampa Bay's final first-half drive began on their own 29-yard line with just over a minute on the clock, and increased their lead to 21-6 with a 5-play, 71-yard drive, the longest a 15-yard catch by Fournette. Brady finished it with a 1-yard touchdown pass to Antonio Brown with 6 seconds to play. Again, Tampa Bay was aided by penalties, in particular a 34-yard pass interference call against Bashaud Breeland, who was covering Evans, and an 8-yard pass interference call against Mathieu in the end zone. All told, in the first half the Chiefs were penalized 8 times for 95 yards, the most penalties called on any team in one half in any game of the 2020-21 NFL season, while the Buccaneers were flagged for one 5-yard penalty. At halftime, the Buccaneers led the Chiefs 21-6. Second half. The second half began with a kickoff by Pinion, which was returned to the Chiefs' own 19-yard line. On the next play, Clyde Edwards-Helaire rushed for a 26-yard gain. Edwards-Helaire also had a 10-yard run on the drive, which went for 47 yards in 7 plays and concluded with a 52-yard field goal, Butker's third of the game, making the score 21-9. Tampa Bay stormed right back with a 6-play, 74-yard drive, featuring a 25-yard completion from Brady to Gronkowski. On the next play, Fournette's 27-yard touchdown burst increased the Bucs' lead to 28-9. Following a touchback, Kansas City began their drive on their own 25-yard line, but an interception by Antoine Winfield Jr. at the Chiefs' 45-yard line gave Tampa Bay the ball back. Despite the fact that the Buccaneers were only able to gain 11 yards on their next 8 plays, they were able to capitalize on the turnover, as Succop ended the drive with a 52-yard field goal, increasing their lead to 31-9. On the next drive, Tampa Bay forced a turnover on downs at their own 11-yard line with 13:43 left in the game, stuffing a running play for a 1-yard gain and then forcing Mahomes to throw 3 straight incompletions. The Chiefs' defense forced Tampa Bay to punt for just the third time, allowing their offense to take the ball at their own 8-yard line. They got the ball across midfield, but turned the ball over to Tampa Bay on downs at the Bucs' 27-yard line. The Buccaneers then went 3 and out, and punted the ball to the Kansas City 42-yard line. Kansas City drove the ball to the Buccaneers' 10-yard line, but Mahomes threw an interception to Devin White with 1:33 left in the game, which was downed in the end zone for a touchback. Brady then kneeled the ball 3 times for Tampa Bay, running out the clock, ending the game at 31-9. Brady, who completed 21 of 29 passes for 201 yards and 3 touchdowns, won the Super Bowl Most Valuable Player award for a record 5th time in his career, extending his previous record of 4. Fournette was the game's leading rusher with 16 carries for 89 yards and a touchdown, while also catching 4 passes for 46 yards. Gronkowski, who caught only 2 passes in Tampa Bay's previous 3 postseason games, was the team's leading receiver with 6 receptions for 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. White had 8 solo tackles, 4 assisted tackles, and an interception. Mahomes finished the day 26 of 49 for 270 yards and 2 interceptions, while also rushing for 33 yards. Kelce caught 10 passes for 133 yards, setting a new Super Bowl record for receiving yards by a tight end. Out of 110 Super Bowl teams, Kansas City became just the third to finish the game without scoring a touchdown, joining the Miami Dolphins in Super Bowl VI and the Los Angeles Rams in Super Bowl III. Buccaneers coach Bruce Arians became the oldest coach to win a Super Bowl, at 68 years and 127 days, while the team became the first to score at least 30 points in 4 games during the same postseason. Box score. Final statistics. Statistical comparison. Individual statistics. 1 completions/attempts, 2 carries, 3 long gain, 4 receptions, 5 times targeted. Starting lineups. Both teams used a single setback formation as their base offense, with 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end and 1 running back. On defense, both teams used a variation of the nickel defense, as their base defense, with 5 defensive backs. Kansas City used a 4-2-5 variation with 4 down linemen and 2 linebackers, while Tampa Bay used a 2-4-5 with 2 down linemen and 4 linebackers. Kansas City's normal starter at left tackle, Pro Bowl selection Eric Fisher, was out with an Achilles tendon injury he suffered in the AFC Championship game. With his injury and others along the offensive line, the Chiefs were starting their 4th option on the depth chart at left tackle, 3rd option at right guard, and 3rd option at right tackle. Officials. Super Bowl LV featured 7 officials. Sarah Thomas was the first woman to officiate a Super Bowl and any championship event in the major North American professional sports leagues. This was the first Super Bowl to have an alternate official for every position on the field since Super Bowl I. It was also the first time the replay official had a backup. The numbers in parentheses below indicate their uniform numbers. Referee, Carl Cheffers. Umpire, Fred Bryan. Down judge, Sarah Thomas. Line judge, Rusty Baines. Field judge, James Coleman. Side judge, Eugene Hall. Back judge, Dino Paganelli. Replay official, Mike Wimmer. Replay assistant, Sean McKee. Alternates. Referee, Sean Smith. Umpire, Ramon George. Down judge, Gerard Phillips. Line judge, Mark Steinkirchner. Field judge, Tom Hill. Side judge, Jabir Walker. Back judge, Brad Freeman. Replay official, Mark Butterworth.